Good morning, warm welcome. I hope that you've enjoyed the last 24 hours. I'm sure for all of us are noticing and reflecting on these subtle things that were brought up yesterday. I hope that you can hear fine and translation is working. We're going to start with a drill from Bapdada for a few minutes. Continue.
अभी 2 मिनट के लिए सभी परमात्म सने संगम युग के आत्मक मौज के स्थिति में स्थित हो जाओ। इससे
Welcome back. And what was so beautiful about this reminder to never let go of love. And yesterday, this discussion was on this, like not letting go of that sovereignty. And at the beginning, there was a discussion on truth. And truth was defined as something which is always, which is permanent. And but if we ourselves are not in our truth of what is eternal, we get confused and working for the wrong side, the beggar within us, and the progress of the beggar to be secure in confusion in a temporary world. And the worst kind was, I think we would remember the beggar that's successful, that is seeming to do well. It's harder to bring about that shift. And in serving others, do the analogy that a king who sees the prince who's gone to a foreign land and has forgotten he's a prince, if in trying to help him, you're also praising his collection of junk, then it's not going to help him to realize who he is. So the king is the one who would be very clear, drop it. And so with ourselves, and we talked about the beggar syndrome, that the beggar is the one that cares who else is around and what other beggars have, what are they doing. So to observing those things. And princes, personal realization was a prince is a prince because that consciousness knows of eternity and being eternal, so can afford to be in dignity, royalty, and doesn't need anything from this world. So that came alive. So looking forward to today and looking forward to your thoughts. Good morning, and over to Prashant.
Thank you, and hello and good morning. Let us create another minute of attention. And very, very simple step. The soul seeing himself in his supreme home. So, living star in that expanse of light. And he is aware that this dimension is timeless. It exists forever. And he doesn't need to know anything else. He exists and his world exists forever without any needs. Thank you. It is nice for us to reset, come to our starting position. And the starting position, we need nothing. That is one aspect, and nothing can ever harm you, ever. That's what it means, never a beggar and never a victim. Such is the truth. Starting position is this. This is what knowledge means. Immortal means this. Nothing can harm you and you need nothing. Prince is not just a nice poetic word. The truth of each and every one, they are eternal princes. who belong to the King of Kings. Begging is optional, and this victim mind is optional. Slave mind is optional. If someone wants, they have this option, behave like a slave or believe that he is a slave and spend a life, as a slave. That option is there. But the truth is, each one is a prince and eternal prince. And he has got all the most refined treasures. This is the knowledge. And our service is reminding others that they have got everything. Shine light on what they have got, who they are. So when we use our simple sketch and remind ourselves, I will be using the board. And it is, Baba sometimes says, do you use these posters and pictures to explain knowledge? Or do you, when you see that, do you see that it is your home and this is your world and this is your reality? And this is what our spiritual effort is. Yoga is waking up to this truth. All along to know that true spiritual effort, if you are soul conscious, even for 10 seconds, what will happen? Say 10 seconds you are soul conscious. What will happen? You want to answer? What are we trying to say?
There would be bliss, more awareness, connection with God, experiencing the alokik. There would be
Yes.
everything would be well, or is well, free from confusion and peaceful light.
Very good. Along with that, another thing that will happen, ego will suffocate. Soul and ego, they both cannot go together. They are like each other's, ego is the biggest enemy. So you remain soul conscious for 10 seconds, ego will suffocate. And in the kingdom of Ravan, ego doesn't want to just disappear. Ego will try its best to come back. That's why there will be opposition. Here we are talking about truth, and we are talking about bliss, and we are talking about God and Prince. Why are they not practicing all this? Why the whole world is not practicing this? Why are they, why that desperation to be the beggar? And the reason is ego wants to survive. And ego is stubborn, just like any ant or insect. No one wants to die. So also here, we have created this ego over many, many births, and it just doesn't want to go. It wants to get bigger. It is trying to get a little bit more praise and little bigger head so that it can get bigger. And the bigger ego is bigger beggar also. So this is the dynamics within us. To do other things, some superficial, effort, bhakti, you go and do the, prayers and all. There is no problem. Ego has no problem you doing this, as long as it is an ego-based life. You do some kind of a chanting, ego has no problem with it. But if you do something accurate, ego will oppose it. This is the dynamics. So how do you deal with this? The program that is required here. Ego is the king in darkness. Ego can do all these things if there is an environment of darkness. You have the option to create an environment of light. Light of truth, light of knowledge. Create this environment. And that environment favors the soul. So this is where you can win. Create an environment of knowledge until it favors the soul. Who is the richest person here? Someone may be having millions, billions, and position, power. But internally they can be miserable, but also degradation can be going on also. The richest person is where there is inner upliftment. If you create an environment of truth, that favors the soul. And the soul that is conscious, he understands. It is like a different game altogether. He has discovered the highest treasures, most refined treasures, that he doesn't need anything. He has removed beggar and the slave within him. In the lower consciousness, he may have lots of gold with him, but the mind is still of a beggar, and mind is still of the slave. And if ego is getting bigger, if bigger ego, as we saw, the more misery. See the lives of all the dictators in history, and their life is of misery. As you go down the line, they themselves are miserable. They create problem to others. Such is the story, because ego gets bigger. And bigger ego is just a problem. It is more demonic to himself and to others. So the environment of truth, the environment of knowledge, it's a game of a second. Let us come there now. And it is, as we said, second, invisible player right now. He's seeing his world, he's seeing his life. For him, that alokik dimension is natural. His world is of light and his world is of immortality. That is normal for him. He is aware of his true family. They all are like him. Invisible players. This is the true family. And this is the world of the true friend and true father. In this world, there is no concept of desire, no concept of disappointment. It's a world of immortality, world beyond harm, beyond belief that something like this can exist, does exist, that everyone is good, authentic in virtue, and everyone needs nothing, they are egoless. They all are eternal princes, lovely and lucky, worthy to be loved by God. You just see this extraordinary truth. Invisible player knows that at every level he got the best. Best home, best family, best father, ultimate treasures. contentment, peace, and love, the whole thing, that he needs nothing from anywhere. If there is a physical world, the grand story, that is a gift. He doesn't need that story in the first place. He doesn't come in the story with his begging bowl. He doesn't need that anything, including the body role. He doesn't need anything. But every moment is an extraordinary gift. And every interaction is a gift, and every experience is a gift as it comes. Story is harmless. Any stories anywhere, they are harmless. Stories are there only for entertainment. Invisible player is also an invisible incarnate. Incarnate with a mission. He knows that his interaction, he has the option to help his brothers come out of this unconscious state. Help the brothers discover their extraordinary truth. The invisible brothers have their invisible truth. He is seeing it and he is highlighting it, acknowledging it. So every second he's just seeing it and giving that attention. That is contributing to the true benevolence on a big level. That is like a lighthouse effect. His life is of bliss and blessings. All along, the invisible player knows that his world is alokik, light. It is beyond. Down below in that story world is Prashant and all the technology, all that is happening in the down below in the story world right now. And one who is waking up is the invisible player. It is completely independent of the story. Thank you. So it will be nice. Feel free to type your comments, questions, and those who missed yesterday's discussion, definitely listen to the recording. It is a good subject, important subject, and revision is necessary for everyone anyway. But it will be nice to hear any comments or questions. And for a very, it will be very much good, lots of encouragement for you to come in the light and cameras, and come in the sound through your chat messages. In our stage where we remain incorporeal, but on the Zoom, Zoom work becoming corporeal.
I think reading between the lines, the practice, which is very objective, that is to wake up the one that is totally independent from the story. It might show that some practices can be adapted by ego, and then it's like trying to lift a bucket while standing in the bucket. I have a question from here. Does not being the prince start with, when we look at the clans, does it start with the warrior when we come out of the consciousness of
Sure.
liberty?
Yes, these words we use, like this time we are using the word, prince, but understand that this word represents the soul that is conscious, is the one who discovers he has got the most refined treasures, got everything, and belongs to the King of Kings. So the word prince is a nice word for this. So just quickly, let me revise some things we spoke yesterday. We gave this image of a prince who has forgotten he's a prince. He thinks he's a beggar, and he behaves like a beggar. He goes to the bed as a beggar. He wakes up as a beggar, and his life is beggar syndrome. He suffers like a beggar. His happiness is like a beggar. That's what we saw. And is he the beggar or is he the prince? That is the question we're asking. And we were seeing, what are these, uniqueness of the prince, and what is the uniqueness of the beggar? We're seeing this contrast. The prince, we're giving the example. Prince may come in your town. He thinks of giving. He opens some charity or ideas. Does some charity work, and he goes. He doesn't think of, taking things. Even if someone gives a gift, he accepts it to make others happy. That is the prince. Beggars, their mind is all the time thinking about, taking. And even if they got a lot, they will still be thinking about taking things. That's the beggar mindset. And we were seeing, unfortunately, the ego is hardwired to be a beggar. Hardwired means even if he gets 10 times more, he still wants more. And the bigger the beggar, they can become robbers also. That is also. So as the ego gets bigger, desperation are bigger, regardless of what they got. Such is the life of the ego. It is like an eternal beggar. Beggar is the lowest denomination in any society. So someone creates a beggar mindset, and life, as was said, he may have gold all around him, but mindset is the lowest in the denomination. Now, prince, all along we are saying there is a prince here. That it is not a meditation experience for 5 minutes. There is a truth is there is a prince, and the prince, we are thinking how to get this prince awake again and come out of this beggar spell. And if the prince was to wake up, he realizes that right now, any prince, he wakes up, he will discover, wow, he belongs to the king. The king loves him. He thought he was a beggar, but now he woke up and he realizes I'm a prince and I'm loved by everyone. And I'm loved by the King of Kings. And I got everything. And I got all the treasures and palace and all this is yours. And you have to just play the part of the prince. You know, it is just a realization. You know, sometimes you can get, if you go to some psychology department, psychiatry department, you get people who are so deeply convinced, no one loves me, this kind of thing, or everyone wants to beat me, someone wants to poison me. They get into such belief and for no reason, but their whole life is harassed by that. In the same way, here, the eternal prince, his real situation is he creates this belief that he desperately needs something and everything is bad, and he has to become greedy. And what about tomorrow? He creates problem to himself from nothing. And here we are reminding, you are a prince. You got everything. See what you got. You don't need to beg. Don't have that vision of, all the time taking from others. And discover who you are, what you are. This is what soul consciousness means. Discovering the wonder of the self, all-round wonder of your world, that is your home and that reality, wonder of the Father, wonder of everyone else. You are seeing this extraordinary truth. And then you realize your biggest need at the present time is the others need to come out of the begging. You can give coins to a beggar. Tomorrow he needs more coins. And even if you give him gold, that beggar mind itself is the torture for him. But the ultimate answer is he has to discover the prince. So you realize that you have the option now. You got a duty. And what is your duty? To help the princess come out of the spell, discover the prince, discover what they got. How are you going to do this? You got light. You see what they are. You see the truth. See the lighthouse. Be the lighthouse. It is a nice process. This journey helps you, helps others. Everyone wins. You win, everyone else wins. One aspect I want to add here. The beggar, there is in each one, there is this beggar side and there is a prince side. That just like there is present time is like this. In golden age, there is zero beggar in the system. Iron age, beggar everywhere. There's begging going on everywhere. That's what makes it the Iron Age. Not because outside world is wrong, but inside it is wrong. So we were seeing that the beggar blocks the prince. So your job is to help the prince become conscious. That's what your mission is. But good for you to know that the beggar blocks the prince. As long as beggar is there, prince cannot wake up. Let me give you an example, demonstrate this. Or you can make an experiment. Do you want to make an experiment on this? Social experiment. In your town, you can make an experiment. We said beggar blocks the prince. Who would like to create an experiment in your town? You can raise hands if you want to. Okay, very good. I see some names. Okay, now this experiment will be a little bit expensive, but you can give a try if you get enough funding. What you do, say there is some beggar somewhere on the street somewhere, there's a beggar, and he got a basket in front of him. Just put in that basket, 200 pound. 200 pound notes in that basket. If you are in another country, maybe $200. In that basket and just observe what he's doing with these 200 pounds in the basket. What do you think he will do with those 200 pounds? He was begging and suddenly there are 200 pounds. What will he do with it? And there is a good chance he will take them away very quickly, and keep some small coins in the basket and will continue begging. I have actually seen something of a similar nature, happening. In that they will continue with the same begging, even though they got something that is going to last them for the whole week, but they will continue with the begging. So what is their thinking? What is their idea behind this? They know that if they keep 200 pounds in the basket and are begging, they will not be successful. No one will give them any coins. So they have to hide whatever they have got, and they have to convince others that he is empty. More he convinces others that he is empty, more the success. They have learned this. Beggar mindset is this. They have learned that more others think that he is a total misery and total disaster, and he is hungry and he's unhappy, more is the success. This is what he has learned. And he becomes clever in convincing others that he's empty. He makes faces that sort of shows that he's hungry. And he has to take a position that shows that he's a disaster. And then there is success. Imagine someone is doing this day in and day out. What will happen? He ends up convincing himself that he is empty. He has created a program inside that empty means success. Empty means progress. He has to hide and don't tell others that you got anything. You will be in trouble. This is the programming of the beggar. Go to a beggar, and tell him, let us open your bag. I want to show you what is in your bag. Will he like you? And he will think that you are a troublemaker. Instead of giving him coins, you want to, show him what he got, and you are exposing him. To have treasures is like a sin, for him. To be shown that he feels guilty. He will feel guilty to be. Everyone comes to know that he has got, 200 pounds. He has to hide it. Such is the programming of the beggar. Now, what is your service? A spiritual service. Your spiritual service is to show others that they already got the treasures. Om Shanti means this. You are telling them you got peace within you. You got happiness within you. You got everything. You are immortal. You are lucky. You are a prince. This is your service. But if there is a beggar mindset, they will see you as troublemaker. You are telling them that you already got everything. And And you don't need to beg. That is like a big problem for the beggar. You are making them unsuccessful beggars, showing what you got. They think you are a troublemaker. They want you to come and say, oh, poor you, you have lots of compassion, lots of love, give them some coins, give them some food. That is good. But don't show them that they have got happiness already. Don't show them they are princes. They think that you are a troublemaker. You understand? This is the difference between your service and lots of other charity work that is going on. The beggars will love that kind of charity, where they show, they are reaching the beggars, whereas you are serving the prince. That is like a trouble for the beggars and beggar mindset. What's the difference between service of all the institutions and Baba's service? What's the difference? All the institutions of the world, including religions and governments, they all are helping. They are all trying to reach people, do something good. What's the difference between all the institutions of the world and the Baba's service?
One comment is the ordinary service of the world enhances beggar consciousness and empowers insecurity, as opposed to with the spirituality empowers souls. Ordinarily awakening and maintaining the beggar. And beggars are trying to help other beggars. They're helping at the story level, as opposed to self-transformation and the proper intention.
Yeah, so what is happening is all the institutions, they are trying to help the beggars. Then they see that everyone is a beggar, they need coins, and they have to find different ways of finding the coins for them. And, with good intention. There is no question about that. Intention is good, but they are helping the beggars to have a good life. What Baba is doing is, Baba says that there is a prince behind here. And this prince has to be awakened. And if you are working with the beggar, that will reinforce the beggar. Successful beggar is not a positive thing here. We have to remove the beggar altogether, and let the prince wake up and let him discover his eternal prince. And he is like the King of Kings. Other institutions, they don't even know that there is a prince. Yesterday we gave the example, there is a beggar, the prince is thinking he's a beggar. Others are giving him coins, but if the king comes, he will not give him a coin. He will tell him, drop all this. Don't touch this, junk, and don't touch these coins. Come home, come to the palace. Because king is seeing the prince. King is not having mercy on the beggar. He is different level. Game is different game. And it may create misunderstanding because beggars are saying, you are not giving any coins to the beggars. What are you doing here? But it is a different game, but radically different. But that's what you are understanding exactly what you are doing, where you are intervening. And in this, your attitude is the most important. Your conviction is the most important. Your vision is important. As was said, you don't need coins here, to awaken him. But you need your conviction, knowledge. You need to be yourselves awake. Then you are able to reach others. As long as the beggar is there within us, it will block the prince, because beggar doesn't want to see what you got. That is the thing. Beggar blocks the prince. You make you knowledge to others, but as the beggar is there, beggar doesn't want to see what he has got, doesn't want to see the soul, doesn't want to go into that he is loved by God. No, beggar says, I got this problem, that problem. Beggar's focus is on emptiness. And as beggar becomes smaller, the prince wakes up. Our big success is to bypass the beggar. Create these 5 minutes where you use paras. You are not starting from here, not starting from the story. Start from the sky. Create these 5 minutes where you start from the prince. See his life, see his perspective. This is possible. Go for 100% clarity and bypass the ego. Yeah, you want to add anything? Say anything?
Yeah, there are a lot of nice questions here. The recent one is asking, is there ever the need to feed the beggar until the prince is awake? And a similar question, if the prince or soul, the body is starving, do we not feed the body first and then shine light on the soul? I don't know if they're the same kind of.
Yes, understood. Very good question. And that they are good for us to know. Prince can wake up now, this moment. Understand this. It is not a long process for the prince to wake up. If, say, someone is given 5 minutes and he says, okay, I got 5 minutes. At the end of 5 minutes, the prince will wake up. Ego will say that like this. Ego will tell, now 5 minutes, I will start the process, relax my left leg, relax my right leg, and then I empty my mind. And by the end of 5 minutes, the prince will wake up. It also means most of the 5 minutes, you used it for the ego and you used it for the beggar. Such is Maya's cleverness. You wake up this moment. Tell yourself this way. Baba likes this language of 1 second. Whole thing is of 1 second. Why should it be 5 minutes if it is an eternal truth? It is now. So let the prince wake up now, and let prince deal with everything that needs to be done. Nothing wrong. We all have to give food to the body, but let prince give to the body rather than beggar dealing with the food, or beggar seeing the food, or beggar seeing anything. This option we have.
Yes. So there are another half dozen questions. Yesterday, Belinda outlined how deep we need to detect subtle hints of begging inclinations. However, in action, any movement requires energy and support, financial or otherwise. And if we look more deeply, we might find there's not a completely clean action. So how should we go about it?
As was said, bring about change now. And it will continue to get refined. If the intention is now, we don't, like some people say, live in the present, live in the present. Beggar can live in the present also. Beggar has no problem living in the present and begging in the present. But our aim is in the present, let it be the prince. Let the prince be awake now, this moment. Understand? No? And then deal with the different life situations. In that contrast, you will see the different things, different ego also, subtlety of the ego, subtlety of Maya, subtle sin, all that will become more clear with that contrast. When that contrast is not there, you will actually not see the subtle ego. I want to add one more thing and want to show you one short video. We mentioned in that beggar blocks the prince. That is what we're saying. I'll give you one example of this. Beggar, doesn't want to see what he got or doesn't want to see the positive, clings to the begging. One friend, he told this story. He's a plastic surgeon in his country, and very close to his hospital, at the traffic lights, there was one lady, who was coming to the car begging, and she had a scar on the face, and she was begging. And so now and then he would open the door, window and give her some coins. One day he told her, I'm the plastic surgeon in the hospital here, and come to such and such, department. Come today, I'm there, and I can operate on you and remove this scar. And I'm doing it. It will be free for you. Come today. Come at such and such place. She just disappeared. She did not want to find out more. And he says, now next time when he is there at the traffic light, she avoids him completely. Doesn't want to come to him. She goes for begging to other people. But she sees him as a troublemaker because that scar is a nice thing for her, brings her success for her, for her present situation. She's a successful beggar. People have mercy and compassion and they want to give her coins. And that is in life. If that scar is removed, there will be less success. So that is, I'm giving here gross examples, but understand this is going on at many levels in a human psyche. Ego, yesterday, Belinda was saying, ego is devious. Ego hangs on to some of these scars, at another level, so that he can continue begging and can continue in that misery. Just observing this helps us to go past it. You all might have seen many examples of similar kind, but understand we are seeing the subtle aspect of this in ourselves. The process of waking up is 1 second, but some of these, the beggar attachments, that they can keep the person in that mind years, many years. He can still be talking about the soul, but still begging is going on. That can happen also. We'll see this short video for a few minutes, and then we will have more time for comments, questions.
There was a man in South India. who wanted to pursue spiritual path. In India, pursuing spiritual path means it's an age-old habit. First thing is they will go off into the forest, looking for a cave to sit and meditate. So the man went off into the jungle. But of course, you position yourself close to your village because you need food. So he sat there and started mantra. Whenever he got hungry, he came to the village, begged some food, went back. And as night fell, he noticed there was a fox. Both his front legs were severed in some trap or something, it's gone. But still he is well fed and healthy. Nature is not kind to any kind of incapability. If you lose your legs, you lose your life. But this fox has lost its legs but well fed and healthy. He was surprised. But then he ignored and focused on his meditation. As night fell, he heard the roar of a lion, the growls of a lion coming. So he forgot about his meditation and climbed a tree. He sat there, and to his amazement, the lion, a full-grown male lion, came with a piece of meat, a piece of flesh, and brought it and dropped it in front of the fox and went away. The fox had his dinner. He couldn't believe this. A crippled fox is being fed by a ferocious lion. Hallelujah! This is a miracle. This is a message from the divine. What is it? What is it? What is it? And he was wondering. Next day evening again the lion came with a piece of meat, dropped it in front of the fox and went away. Now he thought, for sure this is God is sending a message to me. What is it? Then he interpreted it in his own way. He said, even a crippled fox in this forest is being fed by a lion. You fool, what are you going looking for food for? Just sit here, it'll come and fall in your mouth. So he simply sat. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, meditation became like this, 4th day like this. By 7th day, he was groaning between life and death. Another yogi was passing this way, he heard these sounds of a man dying. He came down and he asked, what happened to you? Why are you in this condition? He said, oh yogi, please tell me. A divine message came to me. I went by the message and I became like this. The yogi asked, what happened? He said, see, look there, there's a crippled fox. Every day that fox is being fed by a ferocious lion. Is this not God's message to me? Is this not a divine message? The yogi looked at him and said, definitely this is a divine message. But why is it that you chose to be like a crippled fox and not like a generous lion?
Yeah, it's the story, nice story. We have the option to choose our idols and gravitate. The one mind, ego mind will gravitate to one thing, other mind will gravitate to something else. And as we are saying here, you choose a mind of the prince. That mind itself is like a victory. That itself is a success. You don't need gold with you, but you got a mind of a prince, mind of the generous lion. That itself is a victory. Yes, let us go for the comments and questions.
It's lovely to see in this story how every message even can be interpreted, and in many different ways. So if the predominant is beggar, it will be that way. A few questions. So is Paras the prince and Pata beggar? Any clarity on this?
Paras favors the soul. So it's just Paras is the intellect, and that promotes the prince maybe, and Patthar favors the ego and may promote the beggar. Yeah.
Is it better to avoid reading news and maybe talk of inflation, as Maya really wants to try to secure perhaps wealth in this world? Any comments?
No, we do not say anything of the world is wrong, but who is doing it? Is it a prince or is it a beggar? Who is dealing with the news and who is interested, who interprets? But as a student, certainly we need to create time. That is a different thing. We need time for getting the right habits right in place, and so that in such a time to spend time with for any reason, news, that is a waste and a distraction maybe.
So these princes have amnesia. They can't remember that they're princes. And what facilitates the recognition? Is there some code to crack to get into the mind of the prince to help them realize? In a sense, you've already covered it, but anything you'd like to add, like a emphasis?
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, create the environment of knowledge, environment of truth, Paras environment, in internal, but also external also. Like right now, we are discussing this. That is bound to, create a different kind of process, and it favors the soul. Another environment, if we are in another gathering, it favors something else. We need to observe what is, which gathering helps, which environment helps you. And the revision is important. Revision, creating a certain discipline, on a regular basis, daily, where you have time created for the upliftment.
Is there a way of checking to what extent the prince has become conscious?
And if the prince is conscious, there is happiness. This is a prince means there are treasures there. And you are counting your blessings. And you are seeing the wonder of everyone else. Just that will happen. You're right. There are certain things, like our smriti, consciousness is more subtle. But what is happening, what you are seeing, your attitudes, these are more obvious. We can observe these functions. So that gives you an idea of what is happening at a subtle level. Like, what are you seeing in others? Are you seeing the gross things or subtle things? That gives you at that time, where is your awareness yourselves?
Yeah, that's a nice reminder. Like, even just seeing someone, is it the beggar, like wanting acknowledgement, or is it like looking for danger? So that it's easier to notice. It's helpful. Is asking with authority begging? It's a question.
We have to check. In every situation is its own, but bring the prince. It can be the begging may be going on, and begging beggars can ask with authority also. In one place, one friend told me, this is in Switzerland. There was a beggar, so she told him, come with me to this sandwich. There is just a sandwich shop nearby, and I'll buy a sandwich. And he said, bring it here. The beggar, he doesn't want to come with you to the shop. And he said it with authority, bring it here. If you really want to be compassionate, do it properly. Why are you asking me to come? So beggars can be with authority also.
Is the definition of a prince the invisible player that lives in the world of light, who is awakened and resident of subtle region, stays there, and then simply comes in the awareness of serving in the story world? Is this a definition?
Yes, subtle region, soul world, yes. So, but if we use this image, I'm going back to the board. That is a very useful image. One, he understands that his world is always there. He's not from this story world. And he always feels he is an incarnate, temporarily visiting here, guest or incarnate. Incarnate word is used because he may see himself having a mission. And that's why he is here. And in the process, he may find some food for the body and find some livelihood, but that is not his mission. He's not living to eat, but he's eating to live. He's eating for his mission, and that mission is different mission. So this job will not take over completely, and if I have time, I will do some spiritual things. His primary mission is the princely mission. In this case, the prince is also an angel, so it is angelic prince. The truth of everyone is so big, it is extraordinary truth of everyone. But it shows the extraordinary success of Maya. Maya brings them to the level of such, they are convinced, into the beggar mind, but also we can see physically that they are made into beggars. They are all princes, and they are all angelic princes. And invisible incarnate understands it is his duty to bring about this shift, and to create that light and help everyone wake up. So it is nice structure, nice focus. Extraordinary shift where your time is used in an immensely useful way. Ordinarily, people waste their time, but the soul that is conscious, he understands, is every second has value.
If the prince is feeling himself to be superior to the beggar, and the beggar is without intellect and not acknowledging their prince, is this subtle Maya?
It is possible, but if he is truly awake, soul is truly awake, then he feels everyone else are also princes, that he knows. But if he is not fully awake, if he is himself in ego of some kind, then he will use this to create as another ego. That ego and Maya will use anything to create ego. Ego will use, now that you are into this spiritual, ego will say, I'm more spiritual than others, so create another ego. And in this case, can create an ego, I'm a prince. Ego will itself will say, I'm a prince.
Feels like a whole retreat's worth of investigating and clarity to go into. Nice. Any follow-up thoughts on that? Happy to hear. The question here, in politics, it can be seen sometimes one country is trying to help another, but maybe feeding the beggar. Could it be happening now, the Western countries feeding the identity? The example in the chat, maybe Ukrainian president, is he like a beggar asking from the West?
There are many things in the drama. These are things of the drama. We don't know the consciousness of individual. Here the more emphasis, we check our own consciousness. What is happening in me? That is important for us. Just want to add one more aspect before we take a break, and we can take questions afterwards. We saw so far there is a beggar, and that we said beggar blocks the prince. How do we turn it around? What is Baba's message here? How can we support the prince? One language Baba uses, it is nice. Let me use the word here, a Sanskrit word. Akhand. Mahadani. Mahadani is a donor. Dani is a donor. Mahadani is a great donor. And Akhand is uninterrupted donor. Non-stop donor. So, there is a mind, and a beggar is possibly Akhand beggar. Ego is certainly, Akhand beggar. Baba gives the program, you be the uninterrupted giver, in other words. Take on this duty for you. You are a giver. Giving is not necessarily gross, but your mindset of giving, that is important here. And this mindset has a power to help the prince. To revive him, wherever we are, we have to get into this mode of donor. Let me give an example, how this has power. Let us say, let me ask you, how will this work? The studies also show that who are happy people in any country, any town, they say givers are the happy, regardless of their personal situation, they're happy. Study shows, when people study the happiness, kind of science of happiness, who are the happy people? Givers are the happy, not the takers, not the wealthy ones, but givers. How does that happen? My logic tells me, if you give, you lose. So in this case, givers, they get something, so where does it come from? What is your answer? Where do they get from? When you are giving, and you will be empty, keep giving. So how come a giver get anything at all? From where?
There is a comment, an abundance mindset, and sources something higher, and blessings from the alokik, from the contentment from within, taking light from divine and power. They become a channel and they have no attachments.
Very good, very good. Yeah. Now let me give an example, and that will help us. Let us say you are at your home. You got enough food for your family. There is enough on the table for 5 of you in the household, and life is going well. But it is a weekend, so shops are closed, and there is no pizza shop open. And suddenly your friends come to see you. The lunchtime, suddenly the friends arrive, 30 of them. They say, wow, they were missing you during all this lockdown and all. And now that they are sort of free, they came, and they are so happy to see you. But you have to also feed them now. There are 30 of them. What will be your first thought? What will you think? There are no shops, you can buy anything, and no pizza shop, you cannot go and buy some takeaway. What will be your first thought?
They're all my family. You search and you go to the store and you get them involved in the kitchen party. You have to manage.
Yes, what happens is a situation of this kind forces you to think, what is in the house? What else is in the house? Ordinarily, you don't have to think of it because there is enough food on the table. And now that suddenly they arrived, it forces you to go to the kitchen store, and you find things that you had not seen for a few days. You had not been there for a while. And then you say, this is, you're forgotten. And there are many things there you're forgotten. Now you can use it for them. You can use it for you also. Something similar happens with all of us. As we are saying here, and that is what Baba's psychology is. There is a soul, and the soul is a prince, and he has got treasures. Prince means he is himself being of bliss and peace and love and contentment. It is all within the soul. But he's leading a shallow life, superficial life, ice cream culture. And there is happiness coming from ice cream, and happiness coming from someone praising his shoes. So he's leading that life. There is no chance of he discovering his big treasures. And there is a situation, there is some situations when they do come, we need something to dig the ground, gets us in touch with this treasure within the soul. When it is superficial life, we are not in touch with ourselves. And one way to get in touch with your own treasures, get in touch with the prince, is become Akhanda Mahadani. Think of giving in all situations. Your thoughts, they are to help others. Be that giver uninterrupted. Because if you create some gaps, the beggar will come. Our merchant will come. He will say, I have given you so much, give me back something. I have been so nice, give me some praise that I've been so nice. The merchant will come. Now the Bible says, don't go into those things. You're uninterrupted giver. And that's it. that is your full-time occupation. That kind of, you will never lose out, because that kind of approach will help you to discover the prince properly. What are the subtle treasures you got at all levels? And that is the way, one way to get in touch with ourselves. In positive psychology, they say there are some countries, I'm not going into that now, but there are some countries, they are very successful on the planet, but they do not have natural resources. There are many countries with lots of natural resources, but they are fighting with each other. There's civil war. But some countries with no natural resources, but they are successful. How did that happen? They learned that they have to dig deeper. And when they begin to dig deeper, they discovered the treasure within the human beings, the big treasures, within themselves, and became successful. So here we are. Each one has an option. Find different ways to get in touch with these hidden treasures within the self. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And a very fascinating parallel at the physical level, at the national level, to dig deeper. Would be nice if you want to pose a question that would be helpful for discussion.
How to take an example from the generous lion and not the crippled fox.
I'm just going to put that in the chat. Crippled fox. Yeah. So we have, as yesterday, opportunity to meet each other and giving a chance for everyone to share, bearing in mind some may be new, so just to be aware. And we'll meet back in 10 or 15 minutes. There's a help button if you need. Enjoy and see you soon. Welcome back. I hope we didn't break any conversations. Oh, we have some echo, so hopefully translation is working. Okay. So to take stock, let's have a pause, and then we're going to hear also some thoughts from Belinda on this subject. Thank you for this opportunity to be in that silence and experiencing this alokik Prince reality. And we'd like to invite Belinda to share what comes up for you from the session and perhaps the discussion in rooms and your own thoughts.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. yes, it was very nice to have the opportunity to listen to others, specifically with regards to this very helpful story of the lion and the fox. And one of the things that came up in our group is that you know, the trait of giving can be very deep, but deep within us, but at a superficial level. And so that we are experiencing that we are giving, but actually the giving is reinforcing the beggar, and actually we know that the Mahadani is happening at a much deeper level, and that it can only come from this very deep sense of fullness of our own treasures. And that's when, as was said earlier, you can dig deeper and see that there is something much more helpful. And I recall before coming to the Brahma Kumaris, there was a particular day when I was listening to a motivational speaker, quite spiritual. And I remember creating this thought. It was like a conversation with God, that let me do something that is meaningful for the world, not just feed the poor and work at that level, but something more meaningful. And then coming to the Brahma Kumaris and recalling that moment in time when there had been this realization that something much deeper is required. The interesting thing about this particular story I found is that if we look at the nature of a lion, the nature of a lion is very different to the example in the story of the lion coming every night to feed the fox who could not feed himself. In a sense, the lion was going against perhaps his own tendencies, which would normally be to eat the fox. And how initially this might also feel the same for us, that to choose the option to be the lion, in a sense, we have to deny that ego self. And this is very, very healthy for us. And that kind of ingrained habit of taking rather than giving, taking at some level, as we have been speaking about over the last 2 days, that the beggar will find different ways to elicit those coins. And, you know, he will hide his successes. And even if someone gives him good clothing, he will not put them on. Like the woman with the scar, she will not have it removed, even though it can be very, very beneficial. So it requires of us to actually deny these beggar tendencies or ego tendencies that are there, which is like the lion, you know, the lion coming into a different role, a very different role of being the Mahadani, the bestower, the donor. And I think it really comes back to what's been emphasized is that you need to see and experience your own treasures. Because that experience of fullness will definitely bring you into the choice of the lion as opposed to the fox. You know, as mentioned, the tendency of the lion is to eat the fox, but he has this awareness that he has enough. He has more than enough. And so this natural state of giving, which is the true self, the original self, can emerge. And it can emerge even in those moments when the beggar comes up, and then there is that moment of choice when we step into the lion consciousness and we make a different choice at that moment. And each time we make that choice, that awareness of abundance and fullness and richness and great treasure, because that needs to be so natural within the self that everything else appears as worthless. Like the example yesterday of holding the diamond for 5 seconds, it's a worthless exercise. And looking at the beggar compared to the prince, what a madness. If this is the choice, it is like a madness to go back to that beggar consciousness. So thank you, just a few thoughts.
Thank you so much. It's very rich, and just happy that also we have the recording of this. Feels like lots of aspects to revisit. And certainly in the rooms, this uninterrupted giver or donor was like a running theme through, I think, almost every discussion. So handing back to Prashant for last 10 minutes. Okay.
Sure. And we have the transmission at some point. It will be nice to finish with the words connecting with Madhuban. I liked very much this discussion on in Mahadani, and we just need to catch hold of the essence. You know, lots of these ideas, and as Sarah mentioned, it is good to revise, but the essence, and the essence is with the invisible traveler. He is the invisible player. He is the prince. Only if he is conscious, we are able to bypass the ego. So, and you understand it's a game of a second. Let there be that hobby to come back in that space again and again. Akhanda Mahadani, the uninterrupted giver. Just an example, you are going for a walk, just you are in the town, maybe just walking for 15-minute walk, and other people are just walking past you. They are all normal people, they are just walking past. What is your attitude towards them? What is going on in your mind? Check this. Are you happy? Others are nice to you, others are greeting you, others are respecting you, loving you. Is that are you counting that? Or do you feel in each interaction, you got something to give to them? You got something very precious. You got truth and you got light, and others, everyone. Those who have knowledge, those who don't have knowledge, they all will be better with that reminder, silent reminder. All you are doing is just seeing the soul, and reminding that he is the prince, and reminding his greatness, and reminding his immortality silently. So are you doing this? If you are doing this, you are Dani. You are a giver. If that is not happening, then you will be a taker. You are sort of seeing, well, if others are doing something, the poor me, why are others not greeting me? A beggar will be in that beggar syndrome. That will be going on. Whoever you think of, what are the thoughts? You're just checking. One is akhand, it means permanent, but before that, let us see what is happening here. Whoever you think, are you thinking of them with the attitude of giving, or the taker? Taker may have some complaints also, or impressed also that they are nice to you. That is what matters. In the drama, they have been nice. Whereas the giver, he doesn't look into that. He is giving. See that it doesn't go into merchant. You may be giver, but a merchant will also come in. Merchant will say, I gave so much. Now, let me trade this in. I've been giver, so you talk about it. You want to sell that. Sell your good karma for something else. Sell your virtues. Trade them in for a little bit something more gross. That is what will happen if the Mahadani is not kept in place. As was mentioned, Mahadani, he is the luckiest because he ends up discovering the angel, and he ends up discovering the prince, and he removes within him the beggar and the merchant. So he has a different life altogether. He's very lucky. And if more, there are lucky people, they make others lucky. But lucky at a real level, at a successful angel rather than successful beggar. Yeah, we will be going and connecting with Madhavan again. But any final thoughts you want to? Any comments? Very happy.
So there are so far 3 questions.
Yeah, sure.
So this question from France: if I launch a project that I think will be good for people who are searching spiritually and if I ask for contribution to help finance the project, does it make me a beggar, or does the spiritual orientation and good intention behind the project protect me from being considered as a beggar?
If it is a Brahmin project, then Baba doesn't encourage us to raise funds. Our whole projects make them very simple and bring quality in a simplicity, but there is power and strength. But other projects, in the Lokik world, there is a different style of doing things.
Okay, helpful. When we realize our true nature, do we keep the company of others who try to extinguish our light, or do we keep shining through the darkness, or should it not even be an issue?
Light is eternal. We should be staying with the light regardless of any situation.
I guess the question is like, should I continue to be in the company of others who are not thinking the same way, or should I maybe be there as a test? Or in theory, we shouldn't have any interruption to our giving and light, but perhaps when we're new, to what extent should we be there at all, or does it help? I think this is the question.
Sure. Each situation is individual, but if the situation is such that can interrupt your progress, and then and in the early stages, I will not go for big tests. Just like it is mentioned, someone who has problem with alcohol, he should not take a job in the pub. Don't take the first job in the pub, because you are likely to be a failure. So avoid certain situations in the early stages. Yeah. If there are options, that is the ideal.
Yeah. Thank you. Earlier you were saying if you're walking along the street and others are there, or maybe there is an individual around that's experiencing difficulty, and you're there in silence seeing the soul. The question, how does it help if I see them as a soul in silence?
Sure. The language of the soul reaches the soul. In Baba's words, your language of the words may stop at the ears, but the language of the soul reaches. So if you are just seeing, it is like light, and it will improve your chances of seeing behind all this physical world. It doesn't prevent us from doing anything at a physical level if there is a need. Those situations come very little. Say if you are in the town for 15 minutes, situations of physical, maybe there, maybe not there. But your 15 minutes, every second has value at another level. And understand this great value, whoever you think of, if you are just giving this subtle soul message in silence, if the language of the soul reaches the soul. Notice. And it bypasses all the other logic and arguments.
Thank you. Hope it helps. And we'll be shared the link to the recordings in the chat, and shortly information about the next retreat. Someone's just asking about Sanjeevani. Next one is in, I think, June. Prashant, would you like to share anything, final reflections before we close and go to Madhavan?
Yes, just a revision, that is very precious. But remember these few words, which you may choose, but make that your important, sometimes the essence, and catching hold of the essence into and bring it into practical. Information is nice, but at a practical level, we need one word or one simple aspect which we can hold on to through the day. Good luck.
Thank you. That's nice. Keeping things simple during the day, maybe having a way to note down and record and actually see not only what we've got, but what effort is made, because Maya is clever at merging that also. So acknowledging micro experiences and those minutes of clarity. Thank you all so much. It's been such a rich meeting. Really appreciated the questions and your presence. Thanks to translation team and co-hosting team. Just going to share on the screen for the next treat on the world cycle. It feels like another powerful topic. We'll put this on an email to you as well. And just check your spam. Sometimes discrimination of email providers is not so good. We've put the link in the chat as well. So also opportunity to keep in touch. Do join the mailing list if you want to be informed about what's happening from the Cambridge Centre. So we're going to finish with a few moments of meditation, words spoken from that Prince awake space. Shanti.
Happy Bab Dada. Consider कराने चाहते हैं. एक सेकंड में शांति की शक्ति स्वरूप बन जाओ. एकाग्र बुद्धि एकाग्र मन सारे दिन में एक सेकंड बीच बीच में निकाल अभ्यास करो. साइलेंस का संकल्प किया और स्वरूप हुआ. इसके लिए समय की आवश्यकता नहीं. एक सेकंड का अभ्यास करो. साइलेंस